The Dark Trooper Project, a story of legend, lost in the annals of time. Some of you may remember the good days, back when the extended universe was still canon, where writers, game developers, and fans were helping shape the galaxy as we knew it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let me explain. Let's travel back to 1991 for a few moments. Return of the Jedi was the last Star Wars movie released back in 1983, and since then we've only had two animated series, Droids and Ewoks, which both ran from 1985 to 1986, and they were both met with a very resounding eh. Star Wars was a stale idea as we entered the 90s. That is until a writer known as Timothy Zahn released a book named Heir to the Empire. I won't get into the story of that book for now, but know that Zahn's writing revived Star Wars and is one of the sole reasons we got the great games like Shadows of the Empire and X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter, and of course the game I will be diving into today. Before we do though, please understand that this lore is stuff of legends, non-canon, so trying to put things together with the current Star Wars story might not work. With that being said, let's jump in. Welcome everyone to the Jedi Knight Explained Dark Forces. To better appreciate the game and its full story, we need to look into the two characters that we will be interacting with the most. Let me set the scene for you. It has been 19 years since the formation of the Galactic Empire, and the devastation of their existence has spread across the known galaxy. Through numerous struggles, the Rebel Alliance has learned of a new Imperial battle station, the Death Star, which houses a weapon capable of destroying an entire planet. Out of options and unable to acquire the plans for this new weapon, one of the founders of the Alliance, Mon Mothma, looks to the formal Imperial officer turned mercenary, Kyle Katarn. Of course, Mon Mothma would not have found Katarn if it wasn't for the persuasion of an Alderaanian named Jan Ors. So for the sake of being thorough, let me go back and talk about Jan and Kyle and how they came to meet. Kyle is a human male from the Sullust colony moon of Solon. Solon is known for its advanced agricultural program that covers most of the moon's surface. The fields and work are tended by droids, as they're more efficient than a traditional human worker. Growing up on one of these farms, Kyle got to play with small robotics that his father created, eventually finding a brother of sorts in his father's custom-made labor droid, Ouija. Later in life, Kyle's mother met her untimely demise due to a malfunctioning security droid, after which he enrolled at the Imperial Academy on the planet of Karita. Kyle's father was initially reluctant to agree as he had sympathies towards the rebellion, but we won't talk about him in depth in this video, that'll be more on the next video. Anyways, Kyle trained as an engineer student for 4 years before being sent out on his Omega exercise, a training tactic which puts cadets in command of a platoon of stormtroopers engaged in actual combat. Katarn's exercise was a raid on AX-456, a rebel asteroid base in the AX system. While on that exercise, Kyle met Jan Ors, an agent working for the rebellion. Although the two were enemies, they had a strange connection that led Katarn to spare her life as well as the lives of many of the station inhabitants. Kyle was hospitalized after the mission for being wounded in combat, but made enough of a recovery to attend his graduation. At his graduation, Kyle was decorated with the Imperial Medal of Valor by General Rom Mok. He was also congratulated on his award by a figure dressed in black. Kyle did not know this person and assumed he was some sort of government official. The figure introduced himself as Jarek and extended an invitation to seek him whenever Kyle was ready to join those with power. Katarn was wary of this individual and felt a chilling cold being near him. He experienced a power surging through his nerves, allowing him views of the area and other minds in great detail. This premonition ended when the figure stepped away. Soon after his graduation, Kyle received an official message informing him that his father had been killed in a rebel raid on his home world. Katarn recalled the lives he spared at the asteroid base and was filled with hate towards the rebellion and their cause, believing them to be murderers. To put aside his grief, Kyle, who is now a second lieutenant, took a pleasure cruise on a ship, Star of Empire. This getaway would be his last bit of freedom before becoming an officer in the Imperial Navy. It was his first time in years being surrounded by non-humans from all over the galaxy. To his surprise, he soon realized that people would intentionally bump into him. He was pulled aside by a businessman, Lando Calrissian, who informed him that his Imperial uniform was not seen as a symbol of good in the real galaxy. While aboard the luxury liner, Kyle ran into a familiar face, the rebel girl, Jan Ors, from the asteroid base. She immediately turned away and fled, with Kyle following her through the crowd. Eventually, Kyle found himself in a restricted area, off limits to passengers, where he was immobilized by an accomplice of Ors. He was led into a storeroom where Ors pointed out that he had spared their lives before, and because of that, she would spare his life, if he promised that they would part ways and not be bothered. Kyle felt a strong connection with Ors, and along with a feeling of desperation, he promised, but asked to talk to her again. The two met again in the ship's library, as Jan was practicing her art of dancing in a virtual reality set. Kyle was genuinely impressed, and the two continued to the ship's cafeteria, where Kyle began to talk about the matter of war. Or's attention was grabbed when Kyle mentioned his father and the name of Sulon. She soon came to realize that this Imperial was the son of one of their leaders. Being discreet, she brought him to her cabin to avoid any informant spotting him with a rebel agent. There, she showed him a holo record that showed it was in fact not the rebels who killed his father, but in fact the Imperials who staged the attack. The Empire had disguised their ships with rebel insignias, but Kyle could see their use of standard Imperial tactics, which was a dead giveaway. Katarn immediately tore off his decoration representing the Medal of Valor, threw it in the trash, and defected from the Empire. Sometime later, Kyle confessed to Ors that he desired to join the Alliance. Jan saw his commitment and invited him to join her team when they left the luxury liner in 2 days. Kyle accepted, and his new life began. The next morning, he received a communication advising him not to waste his time on a rebel girl and to be prepared for interrogation. Realizing he had been observed by someone, he called Jan and warned her that someone was after them. He grabbed his sidearm and loaded what he could, leaving his officer's uniform behind as he made his way to Jan's ship docked in one of the hangars. Or's crew already was waiting there for him, and Kyle wasted no time to start initializing the ship for takeoff. He forced the controller, the person who was in charge of the hangar doors, to begin opening the hangar bay door for takeoff. As the ship was lurching up and down, he saw Jan being chased by Imperials. Being that the hangar door was partially open to the vacuum of space, Jan collapsed due to lack of oxygen. She was rescued by a member of her crew and brought aboard. They exited the hangar and flew into space, making a clean escape. Eventually, they reached an antique dreadnought which served as the Alliance's flagship, New Hope. And this is where we actually started our explanation, but before we get back to that, we need to take a look at who Jan Ors is and a little bit of her backstory. Ors was born to a unique situation. Her mother was a choreographer for Alderaan's premium ballet company, and her father was an aerospace engineer. Through her youth, she took on both of these arts and learned them very well. Jan grew up somewhat solitarily. It was noted by her mother that Jan never asked for help and preferred working alone on things. Besides their prestigious careers, Jan's parents were instrumental in establishing the Justice Action Network, an anti-imperial organization whose initials were partly chosen to honor their daughter. Ors did some work for the organization, but it was not long before she decided to leave and make her own path in life. She began her path by infiltrating Imperial intelligence under the alias of Jan Strange. Once she gained a significant foothold in the organization, she contacted the Rebel Alliance, providing them with invaluable counterintelligence, as well as performing covert extractions. She was able to maintain the very delicate balance between the two warring factions, and soon the Imperial intelligence came to rely heavily on her uncanny ability to pinpoint the right subjects for observation. This talent, however, was the result of Ors arranging to have the targets planted by the Alliance. She would often observe, capture, and interrogate, even going as far as falsifying termination evidence to cover their operatives' escape. Unfortunate for the Alliance, things did not always go as planned, and on a few occasions, Jan's cover required her to actually terminate clumsy or careless agents. Despite this, and never formally wearing their uniform, the Alliance granted Jan the rank of captain and awarded her a Nebula for Bravery medal. Eventually, she left her cover in the Empire. And there is a bit more information about her time in the Rebellion, but I won't cover that as it has really nothing to do with this. Just know that she lost her right hand and had it replaced with a cybernetic prosthesis. Eventually in her timeline, we see her mission to the Rebel relay station on the asteroid AX-456 and her memorable encounter with Kyle. Okay, now that we're all caught up with backstory, let's take a look at the first mission of the game. The Rebel Alliance has learned through one of its operatives that a copy of the Death Star plans are being held in an Imperial research facility on Danuta, a barren planet populated mostly by miners and farmers. This information came through a rigged maintenance droid that was set up to record footage of the facility. Located on the outskirts of its capital city, Trid, sits our target, but things are not so easy. Unknown to Kyle, Jan Ors has been sent to Trid a day prior to spy on him. Mon Mothma understandably held concerns of Katarn's Imperial background, along with his friendship with Mech Odom, Kyle's best friend and roommate from his time in the Academy. Odom had previously requested a special assignment and was granted a leadership role at the Danuta research facility. While being briefed on his assignment, Katarn was shown footage of the facility and immediately recognized his friend. Of course, Mon Mothma had already done her research and knew that Kyle may try to warn him to potentially save his life, which could jeopardize the mission. She saw this as the perfect opportunity to use Kyle, not only for his training, but for the reality that if he still held Imperial sympathies, he would be easily expendable. Kyle arrived on Danuta aboard the Moldy Crow and spent his first day doing recon, with Jan always watching. Unfortunately, he could not find an easy way to enter the facility. Knowing his friend Odom was assigned there, he contacted him for help. Kyle revealed his mission, and Odom gave Katarn information on when to pass through the southern perimeter gate. From there, he detailed an entry into the facility through an air shaft and what to expect when Kyle got there. Seeing Odom and Kyle together, Jan thought that Kyle had sold out the rebellion. She considered killing him, but hesitated. Lucky that she did, as they gave Kyle enough time to see her and explain that Odom was helping their cause. Kyle laid out what Odom had revealed, and they came up with a diversion plan to draw attention away from him as he worked through the facility. To do so, Jan made a makeshift bomb and planted it on the northern side of the facility. It was set to go off 45 minutes after he entered the base. On the day of his mission, just as Kyle was told, he arrived outside the southern gate at 2000 hours, 8 p.m., and waited for an hour when Odom would begin his duty and start performing tests on the locks. Odom set an override on the southern perimeter gate security system, which he oversaw. This gave the opening needed for Kyle to slip in, climb to the roof, and drop down the air shaft. And it is here where we begin the game. Even though Kyle had no prior knowledge of the layout of the base, he systematically works through officers and stormtroopers alike. Starting only with his Briar pistol, he quickly picks up a stormtrooper rifle and fights tooth and nail inside and around the perimeter. Eventually, he finds a high-ranking officer who holds a red key that opens an elevator to the second level of the facility. Here, he was met with further resistance, but Kyle continues to fight deeper into the facility and soon comes to a large room that shows a holographic display of the Death Star. Just beyond that, locked behind a large door, sits our objective, the Death Star plans.
This is too easy. Now to get to my ship.
Of course, the game doesn't show it, but during the fight through the facility, Kyle met Odom. Instead of killing him as he had done with the other resistance, he wounded him. This was to preserve his image as an Imperial officer in case suspicions arose as to how the Rebel operative got into the base. Nevertheless, Kyle gets to an opening outside of the facility and is picked up by Ors in the Moldy Crow. The plans are immediately brought to the Rebel Alliance, and an operation is started to destroy the Death Star. This is the point in the story where the movie A New Hope comes in, and the events in that movie are explained in a short cinematic.
Kyle delivers the plans to the Rebel Alliance. Soon afterwards, the Death Star is destroyed. But even as the Alliance celebrates this victory, another sinister plot is set in motion that will become an even greater concern for the Rebellion.
After the destruction of the Death Star, the Empire redoubled its efforts in eradicating the Rebellion. It is not soon after this event that the Emperor, Darth Sidious, approves a test demonstration on a new superweapon created by General Rom Mok, the same man who decorated Katarn at his academy graduation. Mok is a human male who was labeled a hero during the Clone Wars. He served as a non-clone officer of the Grand Army of the Republic, where he fought with a passion for personal combat. Mok gained a reputation for fighting in hand-to-hand combat, specifically with battle droids. This fighting helped develop a keen understanding of cybernetics and a passion to enhance the human body in the fields of combat. Due to his bravery and heroic acts during the Clone Wars, Mok soon found himself on the path of success within Palpatine's New Order. Over time, and with much research, Mok yielded the initial designs for what would become the Dark Trooper. Although his initial prototypes, known as ZX-3 experimental droid troopers, proved to be effective and deadly, they were viewed with a distaste by the Imperial military and were eventually scrapped. Mok, however, did not give up and continued to push his ideas. Eventually, he earned a promotion to the rank of general. Using the new resources available to him due to his rank, Mok completed and began to implement new plans for his own Dark Trooper. He knew that this creation would please the Emperor. However, Palpatine was still obsessed with the Death Star at the time. Of course, when that was destroyed, Mok saw a perfect opportunity. Infuriated with the failure of the Death Star, Palpatine granted Mok the authorization to begin his new program. And this is where we pick back up in the game, with this cinematic between levels.
The Emperor has approved your test demonstration, General Mok.
Thank you, Lord Vader. What I unveil today will mark a new era for the Empire. We will be able to decimate the rebels just as we did the Jedi Knights. At last, the Emperor's war will be filled only with the glory and beauty of decisive victory.
A noble cause, General. I hope the demonstration lives up to your claims. Proceed.
With pleasure. Dark Trooper, release.
Very impressive, General. The Emperor will be most pleased. Continue with your project.
Certainly, Lord Vader.
The Dark Troopers used in this demonstration are deployed from the Arc Hammer. This ship is notable as it's a spacefaring factory whose sole purpose is to create and deploy Mok's new superweapons. We'll talk a little bit more about this ship later. This demonstration was specifically set above the planet and the city of the same name, Talay. This oceanic planet was a prime candidate, not because it was sparsely populated, but because of the rebel base found on its surface, known as TAC Base. TAC Base was a minor rebel base under the command of Admiral Toka, a Mon Calamari. During the attack on the base, Admiral Toka knew that the fight was lost. He instructed his friend and fellow Mon Calamari captain, Bok, to escape Talay and to warn the Alliance. Toka volunteered to stay behind to transmit a distress signal, knowing he would not survive the remaining assault. Captain Bok did escape, but unknown to him, a Dark Trooper had snuck aboard his ship. The crew was slaughtered, and the ship ended up crashing on the planet of Tatooine. 5 days later, Mon Mothma briefs Kyle on the events which unfolded.
Thank you, Commander, for responding at such short notice. The Empire has been keeping us on the run since the destruction of the Death Star. 5 days ago, the Empire attacked one of our secret bases in the city of Talay.
This is TAC Base to anybody out there. Please, we're under Imperial attack.
TAC base was destroyed within minutes. Many innocent people in the surrounding city, as well as the rebel staff, were killed. Intelligence thinks that this may be an act of retaliation for the destruction of the Death Star.
Upon hearing the distress signal, Kyle recognizes sounds that are uncharacteristic of a normal Imperial assault. Mon Mothma is impressed with Kyle's perception and informs him that she's also received a communication from someone else looking to defect from the Empire. This man is Crix Madine, an Imperial Army officer who has previously led the notorious Storm Commandos of the Imperial military. Madine not only wishes to defect, but also brings information of the new Imperial weapon used on the attack of TAC base. It is at this time that we get our next mission. The Alliance Command has authorized Mon Mothma to hire Katarn. He is to investigate this threat and shut it down if necessary. Kyle agrees to the job, but with one stipulation. He wants Jan Ors as his mission officer. Mon Mothma agrees, and we are then briefed further by Ors prior to beginning our mission. Being that the assault has taken out the power for most of the area, we are tasked with first activating the hydroelectric generator. Once the lights are back on, we can then begin searching for clues about this new Dark Trooper. After the Moldy Crow makes planetfall, Jan drops Kyle to survey the ruins of the city settlements. Once inhabited by citizens, now only stormtroopers and probe droids remain. Fighting through the fodder left by the Empire, Kyle is able to restore power and activate the rotating bridge that connects the city to TAC base. While fighting through the even more heavily occupied base, Kyle comes across a strange weapon that has not been seen before.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Looks like I found something that could help us out.
Get back to the landing pad and I'll meet you there.
This weapon is far too big to be carried in battle by a normal human soldier, giving the rebellion a terrifying idea of the size and threat of the Dark Trooper soldiers. The weapon itself looks to be a repeating blaster. These projectile weapons could fire many rounds in a very short time. Normally a blaster of this size would have to be mounted, however we can see this weapon has a very long stock coming off the rear grip. This stock would allow the user to stabilize the weapon better while firing, much like a pistol brace. Looking deeper into this weapon, we learn that it is a fast and accurate weapon, unlike the Imperial blaster rifle the basic stormtroopers carry. The repeater rifle we find has two firing modes, a fast single-shot mode and a slower tri-shot mode. This tri-shot was known to be very powerful against Jedi, since they could only block 1 or 2 bolts at a time. Looking closer, we can see the angular barrel housing, much like a triangle. The 3 barrels are in each of the 3 corners of this triangle. This was a secret to allowing the tri-shot to be the Jedi killer. Kyle radios Jan about the discovery and he is instructed to meet back at the landing pad for extraction. Although this is not easy as it sounds, as Kyle continues to fight through the remaining soldiers and officers left by the Empire. But eventually he makes it back to the ship with the weapon secured. Back in the relative safety of the Moldy Crow, we are able to take a closer look at the weapon that caused such devastation. On it, we find the initials MR, and Kyle recognizes that these initials are those of Moff Rebus, a well-noted weapons designer for the Empire. Rebus is an eccentric and paranoid man, and because of this, he operates out of a hidden stronghold deep within the subterranean sewage system under Anot City, named after the planet it resides on. The planet of Anot is one of the 3 habitable planets in the Anot system, located in the Greater Javan on the Outer Rim. Even though the planet is habitable, it is generally inhospitable like the other worlds in the system. Shortly after the Clone Wars, human colonists began to populate this world as part of a large excavation group. Disregarding the fragile ecosystem, the miners shattered the earth and poisoned the atmosphere, leaving it in ruin. Many of the settlements were abandoned due to this. Now, the planet's only remaining settlement serves as a secret base of the Imperial weapon designer we seek to capture. Jan is able to drop us close to the sewer's entrance. With Rebus being so paranoid, Kyle is left to deal with probe droids and remotes that scarcely guard the area. He makes easy work of the sentries and soon finds himself at the labyrinth's entrance. Rebus has set up an elaborate security system to keep out anyone who ventured too close. In order for us to get access to his inner stronghold, we must go through each sewer line and open up 4 gates to allow the sewer water to rise high enough so we can swim across to the opening that will bring us to him. This is further complicated with the maze-like structure of the sewer itself and the overabundant threats that reside in these mazes. As Kyle dives into the disgusting fetid waters, he eventually comes face to face with multiple Dianogas. These creatures originated on the planet of Vaudran and were discovered by the Hutts prior to the formation of the Galactic Republic. They resemble large cephalopods, like squids, with a single eye stalk that protrudes from their bodies. With several suckered tentacles that surround a mouth that contains many sharp serrated fangs, these creatures can pose a considerable threat when fully grown. Lucky for us, the Dianogas we find are not fully grown, and can easily be avoided or dispatched with a few well-placed shots from a blaster. Eventually, after fighting through the maze of tunnels, Kyle gains access to Moff Rebus's stronghold. Fighting off a few hired Grand thugs, he finds his mark. Rebus puts up no fight despite him holding a very large gun. Taking him into custody, the two move to rendezvous back with Jan and the Moldy Crow. Knowing the filth that both Kyle and Rebus have been in contact with, Jan prepares the decontamination shower on the ship. Despite numerous efforts, Rebus is uncooperative during the interrogation. However, he does let slip information in one of his many rants. You should have seen the results of our tests on Fest. My weapons are going to put a lot of holes in a lot of rebel scum. This information is discussed with Crix Medine, and he confirms the existence of an Imperial weapon site on the planet of Fest. From what we are told, the Empire is doing metallurgic research on new alloys. So of course, the Rebellion has decided to send Kyle once again in to investigate. Jan will drop him in an old landing area far outside the base. The area is surrounded by high rocky cliffs, so caution is advised. The target encampment is protected from strong frontal attacks, so an alternative entrance might be needed to provide easier access. Once the mission is complete, Jan will meet you back at the landing zone. But until then, Kyle is on his own, just the way he likes it. For now, I need to end this video here. I really hope you enjoyed this lore explanation for Dark Forces. It'll be interesting to see what, if anything, Disney does with this lore, after they included a Dark Trooper in the last season of The Mandalorian. For now, again, I want to thank everyone who watches our videos. Whether you only watch a little or you watch the whole thing, it really means a lot to us. We look forward to seeing you in the next videos. But of course, until then, bye-bye.